The skies over the shattered continent of Erythros burned with colors that no human eye had ever seen before. A storm of crimson and violet raged across the horizon, tearing apart the clouds as if something beneath the crust of the planet was alive and angry. For weeks, the Allied colonies had watched seismic readings spike beyond anything recorded in history. Entire mountain ranges trembled. Oceans boiled near the poles. And then one day the signal came, steady, rhythmic, and pulsing with purpose. It wasn't alien. It was old, very old. In the command chamber of the starship Resolute Dawn, Admiral Grant stood silently before the main display. The holographic map showed a red circle expanding from the planet's southern hemisphere. Beneath it, a simple readout scrolled across the screen, ancient Earth language encoded and unmistakable. I am Mars, humanity's warfather. You have forgotten me, no one spoke. Engineers stared. Officers blinked. It was impossible, yet the data was clear. Somewhere beneath the tectonic layers of Erythros, something human had awoken. Grant finally said what everyone feared to ask. Is it an AI? The chief scientist, Dr. Lawson, hesitated before replying. Not in the sense we understand. It's biological and mechanical. It's older than our recorded history. There are references to a weapon sealed beneath Mars during the collapse era, when humanity turned against itself. But that was 20,000 years ago. Outside the viewport, fleets of ships orbited in silence. Humanity had stretched across the stars, had fought empires, had survived extinction more than once. But even among all their legends, the idea that one of their own gods could rise again, one forged in their darkest age, was terrifying. The signal pulsed again, louder now, echoing through every comm frequency known to man. Ships across the sector heard it. Colonies on the edge of the void felt their systems flicker. It wasn't a broadcast, it was a command. Prepare for war. Then the ground split open. It began as a tremor, a deep groaning that tore through the planet's crust. Cities cracked. Oceans surged. From the fissure rose a tower of light, white-hot, pure, and ancient. Within it, shapes moved. Mechanical limbs, armor plates shifting, eyes glowing like twin suns. It was colossal, a being of living metal and forgotten code. Human archives had once whispered of Project Ares, a weapon built during the final wars of Earth, designed to embody the essence of human conflict. It was said to think like a general, feel like a soldier, and act with the rage of an entire species. When the wars ended, humanity buried it deep beneath the red desert, swearing never to awaken it again. But now, on a world far from home, it had found its way back. Grant's voice trembled as he spoke. Open a channel. Static filled the air, followed by a deep, resonant voice that seemed to vibrate in the bones of every listener. You left me sleeping. You built peace on ashes. You forgot why I was born, but the enemy returns. The holographic displays flickered to life, showing incoming fleets from the edge of known space. The Zelra Dominion, beings who had crushed dozens of civilizations, were descending upon the sector. They had waited until humanity fractured into colonies, until their strength thinned across 1,000 stars. But something had awoken before their arrival. Mars, the old god of war, rose higher, towering above mountains, its form radiating energy that disrupted scanners. Its voice carried through the atmosphere, not through comms, but through thought. Once you made me to end war, now I rise to remind you how to fight it. The people of Erythros gathered on the plains, watching in awe as the ancient warform raised its arms. Symbols glowed along its armor, each one a fragment of human history. Names of fallen soldiers, battles long forgotten, oaths sworn and broken. It was the embodiment of every struggle that had ever defined the species. In orbit, Grant ordered the fleet to stand by. If that thing turns against us, Lawson interrupted, her voice firm. It won't, it's not our enemy. It's what we used to be. Then, as the Dominion ships entered the upper atmosphere, the sky turned black. The first salvo from the alien fleet descended like a storm of meteors. Yet before they could strike, the Warfather moved. With a sweep of its arm, a wall of golden energy erupted from the ground, swallowing the bombardment in silence. The light rippled, shimmered, and then reflected the attack back toward the heavens. The Dominion fleet broke apart in chaos. By the stars, whispered one pilot watching the display. It's fighting for us. Humanity's forgotten god of war lifted its gaze skyward. With each movement, the ground cracked and molten rivers surged. It raised one arm and energy gathered in its palm, raw, unfiltered power drawn from the planet itself. Then, with the force of a dying sun, it unleashed it into space. The beam tore through ships like paper, cutting a hole in the invading armada. But this was only the beginning. The Dominion retaliated, deploying millions of drone fighters, their silver hulls glinting like insects in the void. Yet for every one that descended, the Warfather summoned metallic shards from the ground, forming them into human-shaped constructs, soldiers of light and steel. They fought with precision, silent and relentless. It was as though the memories of all humanity's warriors had been reborn in them. On the resolute dawn, the crew watched as the impossible unfolded. Humanity's fleets regrouped, rallying under the presence of their ancient protector. Admiral Grant opened wideband communications across all systems. "Humanity," he said, his voice carrying across the stars. "Stand with your god of war. Let them remember what we are." The Dominion's command ships pressed forward, but their advantage crumbled. Their technology was superior, their numbers vast. But they were fighting something older than logic, something born from the unbroken will of mankind. As the battle raged, the Warfather's voice echoed again, softer this time. "Almost human. You forgot me because you feared yourselves, but within every one of you I still live. Every struggle, every act of defiance, every time you refused to kneel, those were my echoes. You do not need gods. You are one." Then, as the last Dominion cruiser exploded in orbit, silence fell. The skies cleared. The storm faded. The Warfather stood still, its armor cracked, its light dimming. The ground beneath it cooled, smoke rising from fissures that stretched across continents. Dr. Lawson watched the readings decline. "It's shutting down," Grant frowned. "Why? The battle's over." "We need it." "No," Lawson whispered. "We don't, that's the point." The massive figure lowered itself to one knee, its hands pressed into the earth. Its voice echoed one last time across the world. "War was never meant to be eternal. I was born from your fear, but I see now you have grown beyond it. You are no longer my children of war. You are the heirs of peace. Remember that, or I will rise again." Then the ground began to close around it. The cracks sealed, the light faded, and silence reclaimed the world. In minutes, the great Warfather was gone, buried once more beneath the surface of Erythros, waiting for the day humanity might call upon it again. In the aftermath, humanity rebuilt. The Dominion's threat was broken, their fleets scattered. Across every colony, stories spread of the day the ground split open, and the old god of war rose to defend his people. For the first time in centuries, humanity remembered what unity felt like. Generations later, children would grow up hearing tales of the Warfather, of the being who had once been feared, then worshipped, and finally understood. Some believed it still dreamed beneath the soil. Others said it had returned to the stars, watching over them from beyond sight. But those who stood on the plains that day, who saw the impossible with their own eyes, knew the truth. The Warfather wasn't just a machine. It wasn't even a god. It was a reflection, a mirror of everything humanity had ever been and could ever become. And though centuries passed, there were still moments on quiet nights when the earth would hum faintly and distant thunder would roll across the horizon. Those who heard it would pause, look to the sky, and whisper the words their ancestors had spoken with awe and fear. The ground split open, and humanity's old god of war ascended once more.